So far, over 968,000 people have been vaccinated for COVID-19 countrywide. That includes vaccines from the Sisonke trial, which used the Johnson & Johnson jab and now the Pfizer jab. To talk us through these numbers is chairperson of the Ministerial Advisory Committee on Vaccines, Professor Barry Shube, who joins us by Skype as always. Prof, great to speak to you. So here is the problem. How much good can a stricter lockdown do when less than 1 million South Africans have actually been vaccinated, given, of course, that vaccines are the more longer term of the two interventions?
Yes, good evening. Yeah, look, I think everyone would have loved to have a faster, more extensive vaccination campaign before our winter season, before the anticipated third wave. But, you know, you must remember that if we look at European countries, for example, and even the United Kingdom, they have kind of fairly advanced vaccination, 30–40% of the population having vaccinated, but yet they've still got quite strict lockdowns in many countries and certainly quite intensive epidemics in those countries. So it does take quite a while, many months, before we can actually get the majority of the population vaccinated. So I think it would be totally unrealistic to have expected that we would have been able to prevent the third wave by vaccination. I think that the way to prevent the third wave, or at least to kind of dampen it down a bit, to make it not so intense, is human behavior.
And that is what has been stressed over the past few weeks. But when the Minister of Health spoke about 2 weeks ago, he then repeated the line that 5 million senior citizens will be targeted for vaccination by the end of June. When you look at the numbers, currently only 479,763 people in the country have received their first Pfizer shot. That includes the over 60s and the balance of health workers who could not be vaccinated under the Sisonke trial. Is the end of June still a viable deadline?
Gosh, it is a challenge, as you say. It really is a challenge. You know, all I can say is I hope, really sincerely pray and hope that they will at least get the majority of those elderly people vaccinated by the end of June. If they'll reach that target, gosh, I can't predict. I think it is quite a challenge, quite a steep challenge to get there.
Very steep, because, again, when the Minister gave that briefing on the eve of vaccinations for over 60s, we were expecting another 325,000, I believe, doses from Pfizer. That would have taken the doses available to past 900,000, and we still haven't used even those up while we wait for more to arrive from Pfizer and hopefully Johnson & Johnson once the necessary approval is in.
Yeah. Look, I think that we do have the vaccine. I think the problem is the implementation. I think that's where the holdup is. I think that the vaccine stocks are there. We just need to get it to the people. We need to kind of implement it as fast as possible. I think we're all at one with that.
And should we, in the endeavour then, Prof, to speed up getting the shots in people's arms, look to walk-ins more than the focus on the EVDS system, because that has had its own issues, and a lot of elderly people are saying, well, we're actually walking into vaccination centres and that seems to be working better, even without an appointment.
I've also had that feedback. You know, I think that the bottom line is you want to get as many people vaccinated. So if walk-ins are going to do it, that's great. If the EVDS is having problems, then we do need to rely on the walk-ins. So whatever means is we can use, and to kind of extend the hours of vaccination, getting more volunteers to do vaccination. I think these are all things which are urgently needed, quite honestly.
And we had a guest on the program last night, Prof, who was saying to us, look, the approach taken, in fact, is quite wrong by targeting over 60s for vaccinations. He was making the case saying what we should, in fact, be focusing on is vaccinating people who have comorbidities, more specifically diabetics and people who are obese. Why is what government is doing currently the better alternative?
No, I think that's not quite correct. You know, I think universally, and in South Africa as well, is no exception to that, the major determinant of severe disease is age. Old age is the major determinant of severe disease, hospital admissions, ventilator usage and death. Comorbidities, of course, do play a role. But you must also remember that the majority of comorbidities will be taken up by the age stratification itself. So I think, we had a working group of our Vaccine Vac which looked at this very intensively with a lot of expertise overseas and, abroad, as well as local expertise and many stakeholders, and did a scoring system. Certainly age is a major component. Obviously, there are exceptions. There will be the outliers of younger people with severe comorbidities, clearly. But overall, in terms of the overall strategic planning, age is really the dominant factor.
And we're still waiting, Prof, as I was saying earlier, for the release of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. There was that hold-up in the United States where quite a scientific and technical process is still ongoing. Any indication as to where the hold-up is as of now?
Well, the hold-up is really an international. There are about, I think, half a dozen places, sites which are either finishing or producing the vaccine, or finishing and filling or producing the vaccine. And the problem is that if one of these sites has a problem, and this is what happened in one of the sites in the United States, in Baltimore, they then have to do an audit of all the sites. And it means that material has to be sent centrally for analysis and so on. And this takes time. My understanding, and I hope that this is the correct information, is that it should come online this coming week. Mm-hmm. I hope that is correct.
And South Africa desperately needs Johnson & Johnson because it is the most ideal for us, isn't it, as far as the options? It's a single-dose vaccine. It stores very well. It does not need the ultra-cool storage that Pfizer needs, for example, because government has already said that we're not going to be sending Pfizer doses to the more far-flung parts of the country where there may be interruptions with the cool storage chain.
Sure. No, Johnson & Johnson will certainly be, I think it'll be really our mainstay, quite honestly, of vaccination, because I think in terms of what has been committed in terms of purchase, and also, as you say, the storage and transportation, and particularly outside the main urban centres, we will actually depend on Johnson & Johnson. So the quicker that comes online, the better. We're all waiting with great anticipation for that suspension to be lifted, hopefully soon.
We hope very soon, Prof. Always good to speak to you, virology expert and chairperson of the COVID-19 Ministerial Advisory Committee on Vaccines, Professor Barry Shoup. Thank you, sir.